After I said that, there was a voice. A woman said, "Stop," in a mocking tone. Except all three of them were staring at us and smiling in a very mean-spirited, hateful way. I heard someone whisper my name in my ear. It was loud, kind of rural. A couple of days ago, my mum was going through her phone and found 3 pictures. One of her sleeping, one of my stepfather sleeping, and one of my younger sisters sleeping. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Real Spooky Stories, the place where I tell your real spooky stories. If you'd like to share your story, give me a little email on realspookystoriespodcast@gmail.com, or you can get in touch on any of the social media that is linked below. So, last week's episode, which was the occult episode, I enjoyed that episode and it was like the longest one so far. I think it was like just under an hour long, and I actually did upload that one a little bit late in the day because I literally finished editing it on that day. I just got behind in life, you know. And yeah, so what I was going to say was, because the Creepypasta story was so long, it was like over half an hour for me to read that. Do you want me in future to just do real spooky stories on a Sunday and then like one like maybe a Wednesday or something I can upload just the Creepypasta story like relating to that week, because it's just sometimes they're just really long and like they take up most of the episode? Or would you just rather me keep them in the episode? I'm going to ask this on Instagram as well, so for the next few weeks it'll probably be involved in the episode like today's one is. But going forwards, what would you prefer? Like just real spooky stories on a Sunday, then a creepypasta, and I can even maybe just do 2 creepypastas in one episode, because the episode might only be 10 minutes long or something, but it could be over half an hour, like Sunday's one, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I don't know, because as I was editing it, I was like, shall I just split it? But then I was like, I can't do it. I need to know, you know what I mean? Okay. Sorry, that was a long ass intro, wasn't it? Okay, this episode is, what day is it today? Mother's Day. So I thought I would try and get like mother stories, like stories relating to like mothers. I sound like Norman Bates, don't I? Bit Norman Batesy that. Now, I've went on the subreddits that I used to get the real spooky stories from, and I've just typed in like mother or mum or whatever. So they're not even like really Mother's Day related as such. They've just got a mum in, which could be any story, to be honest. But yeah, I just thought I'd do that for today. So the first story is from the subreddit Paranormal Encounters, and it's been deleted so it doesn't tell me who the user is. And the title is Demonic People in Public and Mother and Her 2 Sons. Back in 2009, my girlfriends at the time were on our way back from a road trip and stopped up at a Baskin-Robbins / Dunkin' Donuts to grab coffee. While we were waiting in the line, we both looked at each other and had the most unsettling feeling, like we were somehow under attack. Alarm bells literally started going off in my head, and I could tell she was feeling the same thing. As I look around, I notice a middle-aged blonde woman and her 2 sons who seem similar in age. The sons had blonde curly hair with hazel eyes, both very normally dressed and nothing out of the ordinary, except all 3 of them were staring at us and smiling in a very mean-spirited, hateful way. We proceeded to wait in line and I glanced over again. Now all 3 of them were making eye contact with me, just laughing and snickering. My girlfriend, who was notorious for calling people out as rude, was just creeped out. The energy in the room felt entirely suppressed, as if there were no oxygen left. Nobody else really seemed to have acknowledged them besides us, and the mother and her 2 sons seemed to have honed in on us and knew we were creeped out by them. I don't understand how mother and 2 young boys could emit such an oppressive energy. To this day, I wonder if they were possessed, in a cult, or what the deal was. So who are these people and why could we feel them? That's a bit spooky. There's like a bit of beef on these comments. I'm not going to read them because they're going on about like satanic cults and high priestesses, and the OP is like replying, and they're really long comments. So if you want to read that beef, no, it might not even be beef, but like it sounds like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to read it because it's so long. But if you want a little bit of fun, then have a little read. The actual moderator of Paranormal Encounters has commented on this as well, so I'm not going to read that because it's a long explanation as well. But you can read that too. This next story is from Creepy Encounters, and it is by the user Salmon Colby Fan 23, and it is titled, My Mum and I May Have Talked to a Murderer in Walmart. My mum and I were standing in the line to check out at Walmart the other day. This guy, who was average height, wearing a hoodie and beanie, got in line behind us. He was standing really close to us, and I immediately got weird vibes. Since he only had one item and we had more, my mum said, would you like to go in front of us? He responded with, nope, I'm not impatient about anything. I spent 27 years in prison for a crime I didn't commit. My mum said something like, wow, that's a long time. He then said, haven't you ever heard of the Donald Whalen story? That's me. If you live around here, Bloomington, IL, I'm surprised if you haven't heard about it. It was on the news, online, and there's a video of them releasing me on YouTube. You should look it up. He then proceeded to tell us about how his father was murdered and they charged him with it because his fingerprints were on the pool cue that was used to strike his dad. He said his fingerprints were on it because he played pool there earlier that day. They released him from prison because of someone else's DNA. He said this was the first big store he's been to since he got out. He also said his lawyer brought him a Harley, which I thought was a little strange. We looked up Donald Whalen and the picture was in fact who we met, and he was in prison for 27 years. We talked to my dad about it that night and all he said was, with a straight face, Donnie Whalen, the guy murdered his dad. I used to work in the bar that happened at. That's why you don't talk to people in Walmart. He said it so matter-of-factly that it gave me chills. My dad explained that Donald Whalen was a drug addict and he murdered his dad at work to rob him and get money to buy drugs. Apparently, a lot of people still believe Donald Whalen is guilty of murdering his dad, and I myself have suspicions as well. If you're curious about learning more about this guy, you can look up Donald Whalen. He should be the first thing that pops up. If you want to see pictures of him, you can look up his name on Google Images. Edit, May 2020. I just found out Donald Whalen got arrested again for failing to comply with a device, probably an ankle bracelet or something. Second edit, June 2020. Donald Whalen got out of jail on bond, but soon he proved that he still needs to go behind bars. He was arrested again for stalking and unlawful restraint of his ex-girlfriend. I have a feeling he'll be locked up for a long time. My mum and I were just talking about it, and there is little to no doubt in our minds that the man we spoke to that day actually murdered his dad. I could not shake the gut feeling I had the day we met him, and his recent arrest only added to my suspicions about him. I don't understand how he was in prison for 27 years because of his fingerprints were found on a pool cue. Surely, I don't understand, did your dad say it was at a bar or something? How loads of people's fingerprints must have been on the pool cue, or surely the police would take into consideration he might have just played pool there earlier that day. You know what I mean? I don't understand. There must be more than just his fingerprints on that murder weapon. And how could he just be in prison for 27 years and then get released because of someone else's DNA evidence or something after 27 years? I don't understand. He's got, confidence, though, going into Walmart, hasn't he? Just standing in the queue and telling, it's like he wants everyone to know, you know what I mean? Because you just wouldn't mention it, would you? And then you would have never known, or your mum wouldn't. But it's like, your mum literally was like, do you want to go in front? And then he was like, by the way, I got convicted of murder, and it was false, and I was in prison for 27 years. Do you know what I mean? That's just a bit of a spooky, weird one. Creepy guy. Here is the next story, and this one is from Paranormal Encounters. This one is from the user Piv_Queen. It is titled, Something is Messing with My Mum and I. So I'm hoping for some advice or maybe some fresh eyes on a situation we've been dealing with for a while now. For context, my mum and I live in a small town in Australia that's notorious for being haunted with the locals. I don't think there's a single person there that doesn't have a story about the white lady on the main street. The house we live in is old, but not as old as some of the places here, and for the last 7 years, the only strange occurrences that have happened to my house is a ghost cat that hang around the kitchen and sometimes my bed. Sorry, Piv Queen, you can't just say things like that and brush over it. I would like to know more about these ghost cats that hang around the kitchen and sometimes your bed. You know what I mean? You can't just brush past something like that. Since about July, though, things have really ramped up and feel somewhat targeted. The first time was when I was up late and cleaning the kitchen for an inspection. I've got a long kitchen that's connected to the lounge room. I had music playing on the TV and was sitting at the far end of the kitchen cleaning the oven. I heard my mum in the lounge room singing to the song that was playing. It's one of her favourite songs, so it wouldn't be that weird for her to come out to listen to it. I heard her say my name from the door, but I had my head in the oven, so I didn't see her. I just called back asking what she wanted. She didn't answer, so I sat back and looked at the door and called out again. I got no answer, so I got up to search for her. My mum is mentally ill and I'm her carer, so her calling me and wandering off isn't exactly unusual. I found my mum sleeping soundly in her bed. The next day, she said she had slept through the night, hadn't woken up at all. Since then, our milk keeps leaking and we can't find holes or splits in the carton. Candles that are lit sometimes burn way too quickly. Our pets have been agitated. The same song keeps playing randomly, even if something else is on, multiple apps, multiple devices. And while I was away over the weekend, Mum heard me come through the front door and call her a full day before I was home. Any thoughts, feelings and ideas are welcome. Feel free to ask questions. Right, I was expecting a little more of this, but I'm just going to say, you've got a mimic, girl. Let me just say as well, if it's the middle of the night, you might be tired, you've got your head in the oven, you've got music on, you can't clearly hear someone shout you. You know what I mean? It could have just been like a trick of your mind through the music. And same with your mum, when she heard you come home a whole day before it happened, she could have just been dreaming it. Like that exploding head syndrome, which I think I mention on every single episode, but when you're like nearly asleep and then you hear someone shout your name or you just hear things, like I just feel like, as for the milk, I just don't know what to say about that. Like, milk leaks out from no holes. Like, I work in a supermarket and I can tell you it's not that unusual. Believe me. This next one is from Paranormal Encounters as well. It is from the user Riverish Boy. It is titled Sleep Paralysis Doppelganger Pretending to be My Mum. It's my second time having sleep paralysis ever since that last time I was attacked by an incubus a year ago. Sorry, you cannot brush over this. You can't just brush over that. You were attacked by an incubus a year ago, full stop, new sentence. No. I would like to know more about this. You can't just brush over something like that. What would these people thinking we know what they're talking about when they say things like this? I was in the middle of trying to get back to dreaming, but I was still half awake. Now that I think that, I knew I was awake. I remember going to the washroom twice after waking up sometime at 8 a.m. and going back to my room. My dream was mildly weird, like they usually are. It was about going to a party, being invited to a Spanish school thing, but it was really just a bunch of teenagers travelling together. At the end, there was a party, and I totally forgot about it, so I was going to grab my makeup. I was having a difficult time trying to grab my makeup because it was like something was blocking me. Something blurred my vision in my dream. I knew I was trying to dream, but I didn't at the same time. Then all of a sudden, became paralysed in my bed. I felt tingly feelings hold me down. That's the feeling I usually feel when I make an attempt of astral projecting. I remember hearing someone walking on my bedroom's wooden floor. The floorboards are pretty creaky, so it was definitely walking. I remember it hovered by me. I thought it was my mum. I remember saying something like, "Hi Mum," and when she didn't answer and the noises on the floorboards continued, I said, "Mum, I know it's you." Still no answers. It was my second time being able to break out of the paralysis, and I said, "Stop," loudly. After I said that, there was a voice. A woman said, "Stop," in a mocking tone. I knew it wasn't my mum, but it sounded exactly like her. After I broke out of the paralysation again, I knocked on the wall for my mum to come over. That was basically when everything ended. She came to my room and we talked about it. I'm writing this a couple of minutes afterwards, so I still feel very uncomfortable. I don't know if this will add any relevance to the story, but I'm getting into more of the spiritual side of the world. I'm learning about witchcraft and Reiki. I only started learning a few months ago, so I'm still pretty new to this world. I remember these past days, I keep seeing dark shadows here and there. As much as it's sketchy, I came accustomed to having weird things happen to me. I've been able to see and sense things ever since I was a kid. It's only starting to become stronger because I'm now becoming older and I'm getting into all of the spiritual stuff. I have a guess that more entities are able to take control of me because I'm naive and weak. I'm also at the time when everything's confusing in my life, so it makes sense that even spiritually I'm having trouble. I had my fair share of talking with spirits and then giving me bad dreams about human sacrifices, but I've never gotten a response quite like this. It was so clear. I could feel the presence of this entity right there in my room. It was nothing like the incubus attack. That entity dived right into it while this entity just taunted me. Since I'm free today, I'll probably burn some sage. But if you have any suggestions of what I could do and or answers for me about what that was, thank you. Sorry if my grammar's bad. I'm sorry. What? Also, this does just sound like classic sleep paralysis, to be honest, when, that's what happens in sleep paralysis, isn't it? Luckily, I've never experienced it, and I'd never want to, but I know people who have, and I know generally what it is, and what it's like, and everything, so this sounds exactly just like sleep paralysis. Ooh, okay, so they've linked the incubus post in the comments. I'm not going to read it because I don't want to read about an incubus, but it is there. If you go in the comments of this, obviously all the stories are linked below as always. If you go in the comments, it's linked. And you can read it. Someone's commented though on this, if you got sleep paralysis, how are you able to speak? That's right, isn't it? You're not able to speak during sleep paralysis. I thought, maybe it wasn't sleep paralysis then, or maybe you thought you spoke but you actually didn't. This next story is from Paranormal Encounters. It is from the user accomplished-EBB1638. It is titled, I used to think my mum's house was haunted. My sister and I used to play with the Ouija board a lot, and I was never quite sure if it was real or just in my mind. After playing almost every day, the board once said, soon you'll be me and I will be you, which freaked my sister out and she never wanted to play again. Obviously people used to warn me about it, but I was so into ghosts and spirits that I didn't care. Once my pop visited and believed the house was haunted, claiming something ripped the blanket off him while he slept. We had a dog that refused to walk through the house once. He was terrified of it. I had other experiences in the house, like waking up in the middle of the night feeling as if something had been shaking my bed. One time when no one was home, I was in the bathroom getting ready and I heard someone in the house, clear as day. It sounded like they were opening and shutting cupboards in the kitchen, moving chairs and rustling through plastic bags. I ran across the hall and hid in my mum's room, terrified, wanting to see the person walk down the hall, but when my mum pulled into the driveway, I ran into the kitchen and no one was there. Another time, while getting ready for school, I was in the kitchen making lunch. My kitchen leads into the laundry. I heard someone whisper my name in my ear. It was loud, like they were right next to me. It sounded just like my sister. I felt an overwhelming sadness and started crying. I ran into my sister's room, but she was still fast asleep. She woke up to me bawling my eyes out. Even if she had been awake, there's no way she could have gotten past me without seeing her. I was really freaked out, so I went to a psychic with my grandma. The psychic told me that it was my little sister's twin who died before she was born and that she was always with me. A few months later, my grandma died from cancer, which we only found out about a month before she passed. My grandma died on the day of 9/11, and a few weeks later I grabbed a book out of the bookshelf and accidentally dropped it on my floor, and it landed on page about 9/11. After my grandma died, this bird came into our lives so randomly. He helped us get through hard times and showed me what love truly was. He taught me a lot of lessons in life, and he was truly my best friend. When he came to our lives, everything stopped. Nothing ever happened to me again after that. To add on to this, just as our bird came so quickly into our lives after my grandma passed, on the week that my grandma died, 10 years later, my bird left our lives just as quickly as he came in, as if he knew we didn't need him anymore. I always felt as though my grandma brought him into our lives and then took him out when she knew we didn't need him anymore. What? I'm sorry, what is with people just brushing over things? Like, why are you just saying a bird came into our lives? What does that even mean? This bird came into our lives? What does that mean? What does that mean? Where did this bird come from? Does it just fly in the window and then it stayed there for 10 years? I don't know what you talk about. Like, am I alright this episode? Is everyone alright on these Reddits? Like, I don't know what's going on. I feel like I'm drunk reading these. This final story is from the subreddit The Truth Is Here. It is from the user Whitney Renee B. It is titled, My Mum Called Me Today with a Bizarre Story, Pics Included. They're obviously linked in this post, so if you want to just click on the post below, you can look at the pictures yourself. My mother, stepfather, grandma, brother and 2 sisters live in a house by a Lake Draper in Oklahoma. They have neighbours, but the area they live in is kind of rural. A couple of days ago, my mum was going through her phone and found 3 pictures. One of her sleeping, one of my stepfather sleeping, and one of my younger sisters sleeping. They were taken at the beginning of April, around 3 in the morning. She has no history of sleepwalking, and every other family member has denied having anything to do with the photos. I know my family very well, and they wouldn't do something like that. I also have doubts that any of them would have even been awake at that time. I'm just curious if any of you have experienced anything similar, or have a reasonable explanation. I'm including all 3 pictures, but the strangest one of all is the pic of my mum. It appears as if whoever took the picture was kneeling down the bed next to her, beside her, almost by her face. The other 2 pictures appear to be taken from above them. I should also make it clear that they have 5 dogs, all of which bark on anything and everything. Because of that, we are confident it wasn't an intruder. Any evidence or suggestions are welcome. I'm going to include the links to the pictures I post. Thanks in advance for any help. So it's got the 3 pictures there, the mum, the sister and the stepfather. They've put like a few edits and stuff. It's just about the pictures. After everyone's comments, someone's commented, we had a photo kind of similar. It was a picture of me, my mum and dad, all with our backs to the camera. I remember the moment too. My dad had just gotten his coat and was getting ready to leave. I was an only child at the time and no one could have taken the picture. We didn't find it till months later when we had the camera developed. That's horrible. I feel like, when was this posted? It's from 4 years ago. So this says, a couple of days ago, my mum was going through her phone. It was taken at the beginning of April. I want to know, like, when was this story? Was it, like, May or was it, like, December? You know what I mean? Because I feel like if it was the beginning of April, or even after like a week or two, if someone actually did take that or whatever, they wouldn't remember if they were sleepwalking, or you know what I mean. Whereas if it was like last night and you found pictures from last night, you'd be like, actually I did hear walking around, you know what I mean. You would be able to remember it a bit more. There's big comments on here about scientific stuff and I don't want to read them. Someone's commented, okay, so I've heard stories of people secretly living in the attic or basement or cubbies of someone's house. It's possible they may be someone you don't know lives with you as well. If so, they would know your house well and how to get around it quietly. The animals also would probably know them and not need to bark. This person would have been active while you were in home. Since everyone is home and quarantined, the only time to go about the thing will be the early hours of the morning when they know everyone's asleep. Superkeeper just thought, oh, that's like frogging. It's like that film, isn't it? Can't remember what it's called, but it's like when people live in your house and like basically what you just said. So you don't know they live in your house and they come out like in the night and stuff, and like they're in like the loft or something, but you don't know they live there. Oh, someone else commented, same happened to a cousin, but it was like a 20-second video while she slept and you could hear someone whispering her name as if trying to wake her up. It gives me chills to remember the video. This is back in the 2000s. Oh, that's disgusting. Like, what? Oh, I've got goosebumps right now. Listen to this. And yeah, I am cold and also creeped out. So it's a bit of both. That is really weird. I'm not gonna post the pictures because before I read the story I didn't realise it was just of picture of the mum, picture of the sister, picture of the stepfather. So if you want to look at the pictures, and I'd say look at them because they are a bit creepy. They're just of them asleep. Oh yeah, if you want to look at the pictures, I'd say definitely look at these pictures. So yeah, the link below. And that was our last real story of today. So I'm gonna go on to a creepypasta one now. So it's time for a creepypasta. Creepypasta. Yeah, I typed in mum or like mother. So yeah, this is one I found. I haven't actually read it. I don't know what it's about, but it's an alright length. So I'm just gonna give it a go. Alright. So it's from the subreddit Creepypasta, of course. It is from the user Big Diggity D. It's titled, I would only see my mum at bedtime. So, my childhood wasn't very normal, except I only knew this when I was much older. My parents were kind of together, but also kind of separated. Let me explain. I am an only child. My parents always only wanted a girl, and that's exactly what they got, so they never had any more children. My dad was the daytime parent. While my mum was out, he stayed home, took me to school, fed me, and played with me. He was an amazing dad. He even found time to earn some money to buy me treats. I would only ever see my mum when I was in bed. She was never home during the day, so would always make sure she came home to put me to bed. I always looked forward to bedtime, and she was never late. She was strange, but I loved that. Instead of bedtime stories, she would write me letters and draw pictures for me that she must have prepared earlier in the day. She was also obsessed with crime stories and would tell me some so we could try and solve them together. Our favourite story was a wild one, and it was local. So a lady, we'll call her Lady 1, went missing for I think a few weeks. I'm not sure on the timing, but after a while, a different lady, Lady 2, was found dead in Lady 1's living room. People have no idea how she got there or why she was there, but it looked like suicide. My theory was she took Lady 1 and maybe felt guilty for whatever happened, then went to Lady 1's house and killed herself. But what happened? What did she do? And where did Lady 1 go? My mum was proud of me for coming up with that. I still think about it every now and then. It was never solved. My mum managed to gather some photographs and other things to help with our investigations. We had a picture of Lady 2. She was beautiful with a very kind face. I know she probably committed murder, but I always liked her face. I still remember what she looked like. She had dirty blonde hair, brown eyes, a pointy nose and thin lips. She had a little line through her left eyebrow, like a scar maybe. I wondered if I still have those pictures. She also had blueprints of the house layout and photos of the house doors and windows so we could figure out how she got in. Anyway, sometimes I would try and bring up my dad to my mum, but she wouldn't really say anything. She would always just look sad and change the subject. And whenever I mentioned mum to dad, he was often shrug it off and change the subject too. It was the only thing I found sad in my childhood, but I was always quickly changed to a happy subject. I'm visiting my dad soon. I moved to another city for university and I found a job partner and home here now, so I only see him occasionally. When I visit, I ask if he has any of my old stuff to see if I can find the crime evidence and old letters from my mum. I would love to go through them all again. Update, so I found 2 boxes of all the stuff. I had a quick look, but not a proper one. I didn't mention it to Dad and to not bring up any bad memories. I'm going to go through all this stuff tonight, maybe even longer, depending on how much there is, and update again. Update 2. Okay, so I've been looking at the crime stuff. Some interesting cases we discussed, some boring ones. I noticed they're mostly quite old cases. I know they were all when I was a child, but even for then they were pretty old. The most recent one of the lot is the main one I remembered, the Lady 1 and 2 case, the year after I was born. I found the picture of Lady 2. After all these years, I do still find her to have a calm, beautiful face. I have seen the full case and I actually know the area this house is. I may look into it some more, finish what we started. The letters Mum wrote, however, I didn't remember any of them, but now reading them, they're quite strange. There are some stories, kind of weird, a bit eerie to read now that I'm older. Like there's a poem about a kid being stuck in a room, asking to be let out, but no one is listening. It's like a childish poem, but the subject is a bit odd. There's another that's just describing directions through the house we lived in, Dad's house now. There is some with random numbers and letters that I can't figure out, and the letters all consisted of only O, F, C, I, N, and the numbers were only 9710, but there was these letters and numbers all over the page. And the drawings don't make a lot of sense, like a brick wall with a few bricks highlighted. Another one is of a stick man on his knees, arms up, like he's praying to a bright light shining down on him or something. Update 3. I went to look at the house where the suicide was committed. Unfortunately, people live there now. I wondered if they got a discount. Anyway, as I wasn't in the habit of committing crime myself, to look inside, and I'm definitely not going to ask them if I can look around, I decided to return home after a few sneak pics on my phone. Time for plan B, Google. I googled the house, nothing. I googled the situation in great detail, nothing. I did the photo Google using Lady 2 and I found it, the case, the mystery of the suicide squatter. It's what the article I found was called. Strange, I assumed she was a murder, not a random squatter. But the article was pretty rubbish, so they're probably wrong. I found a case number, however, so I'm going to find the case. How do I do that? Is it on Google? Do I ring someone? Can a random person access these cases? Find out in the next episode. Update 4. Okay, holy shit. So, I don't know what to do. I managed to get the case and there was a lot more photos and there was notes from officers and more. But the thing that left me shaken, I found a picture of Lady 1. I can't say 100% because it's been a while, but she looked exactly like my mum. Why is my mum Lady 1? Was she kidnapped? If so, why was she with me? Why is the case not closed? Did she escape? And why were we studying her own case? I'm so lost right now. I need help. I need to speak to my dad, but I just don't know what to say. I need some time to think about this, work up the courage to speak to my dad. Maybe I'm just overthinking this and remembering my mum's face wrong. Update 5. So I contacted my dad. I asked him if he has any pictures of Mum. Instead of telling him the whole story, I thought I'll double check and I don't have any pictures. He sent me the picture. She is not Lady 1. She is Lady 2. Update 6. My mum, the woman I remember tucking me in every night, reading me stories, studying case files together. She is not my mum. She's Lady 1, the person who disappeared. And my real mum is apparently the lady who committed suicide. That makes no sense to me. I looked through everything in my boxes, the letters, the drawings, the numbers. The story seemed to be of someone trapped. There was a description of the layout of my dad's house, a picture of bricks. I took all the stuff to my dad's house. I didn't tell him why I was visiting, just that I was staying for a few days. When he was out, I followed the description. It seemed to be directions. Dad had this little closet-type room that's only about 3 feet high and hidden in a corner of the house no one really goes. It led there. I went in and it was a brick wall. There was the drawing of the bricks with some of them highlighted. I found a part of the wall that looked identical as the highlighted bricks were very brittle and just crumbled apart as I clawed at them. When I cleared it, it revealed a wooden wall. The wall had a code lock and a type of a small door. I looked in my notes and found the numbers and letters one. When I looked properly to see if it was a code, I realised the 4 numbers rearranged were 0791, my birth month and year. I opened the door. It was a body. The letters must have spelt coffin. I ran out and threw up in the toilet. I called my dad and he came home. We called the police. We're now awaiting results from forensics. Update 7. It's been a while. I have needed some time to distance myself from all this and get therapy. I'm currently getting better with coping mechanisms I have learned and just thought I should update everything. The results came back. The lady we found was Lady 1, the one who went missing. The lady I spent my bedtimes hanging out with. She must have been trying to tell me all along she needed help. I spent a lot of time thinking and it never occurred to me that I don't remember her dying. Just all of a sudden, there was no more bedtime visits and it was only my dad. I spoke to Dad about my real mum, Lady 2. She committed suicide when I was 1 year old. My dad had no idea why, only that it was in someone else's house. It was too painful for him to talk about when I was younger. Forensics found marks in the skeleton that had indicated she had been stabbed to death. The knife was found with the body with my mum's DNA on it. This poor lady came to her murderer's daughter asking for help. My mum is a murderer who buried her victim in the house I lived in when I was 1 year old. I spent years staring at a picture of my mum, not even knowing it was her. This is my final update now. I need to move on from all of this. Oh, that was very good. I actually didn't expect that to have that turn. Like, as it started saying it, and like she was saying my mum at bedtime and all that, I was like, the mum's obviously like, because why would she be going on about like this crime things and that? I was like, obviously that's the mum that's like visiting you, and the mum's the one that's died. But that little twist at the end where it wasn't the mum that died, she was the one who killed the woman, that was quite good. I like that. Also, like, the dad surely would hear you like talking in the night time. You know what I mean? And like, whenever you brought your dad up to your mum, or who you thought was your mum, like, she brushed it off or looked sad. And whenever you brought your mum up to your dad, he brushed it off. Like, was it not like, by the way, mum said last night this, and then your dad would have been like, what the hell are you talking about? You know what I mean? Also, I know it's fake. I know the story's fake, and I was proper invested in it, and it was good. I did enjoy that. It was really good. Well done, big diggity D. Okay, so thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you have a lovely Mother's Day with your family. I hope you did enjoy the episode. I enjoyed this episode. I actually don't know what to do for next week's episode, so if you've got any ideas, or if you've got anything you want me to tell you about, like doing episodes on or whatever, just let me know, because I would rather do what you want to hear rather than what I just think what people might want to hear and you might not even care. Okay, so thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next Sunday at 12 p.m. Goodbye.